Welcome to the 5th episode of the Nick and Jared podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Jared.
And today we're going to be talking a little bit about what happened over the weekend in college football, a lot of the upsets in week one. We're also going to play Do You Care again. We have a lot of funny things to talk about and a lot of serious things to talk about also. And also another serious thing to talk about, we're going to give our opinions on the Colin Kaepernick National Anthem scandal, if you want to call it a scandal or not, a little later in the show. So stick around after the music. We'll be talking about college football. So week one in college football is over, and what a crazy week it was. A lot of upsets. Number 5 LSU got upset. UCLA got upset. Ole Miss, you could say that's an upset. They lost to Florida State, but still another ranked team losing. Oklahoma, you could say, got upset by Houston. Notre Dame got upset by Texas. And then the biggest one, not an upset, but a disastrous start for the USC Trojans, getting beaten by the Alabama Crimson Tide, the national champions, 52-6. And Jared, I'll let you take over from here.
Yeah, what a way to begin the season for USC, huh?
Yeah.
Not. Yeah, they completely got demolished from the very beginning. They came out of the tunnels crawling and just full of energy, and it looked like they were just really going to come out and at least put up a fight. I actually thought Alabama was going to win before. That was my prediction. But I figured USC would give them, at least a run for their money, or at least in the first half it would be semi-close, which it wasn't a blowout in the first half. But you could just tell that Alabama's team was better. They were more prepared, more experienced, and it just looked like USC was a deer in the headlights. Alabama had 465 total yards of offense. USC had 194.
Wow.
Alabama alone rushed for 242 yards. They completely just manhandled USC, made them look like the ugly redheaded stepchild, and pretty much brought them back down to earth. I will say, following USC as a fan, I will say that I think this will potentially help USC going forward, because I feel like they were almost a little too confident going into this game. They had a lot of swagger and a lot of mojo coming off of last season, and securing their head coach for the foreseeable future at least. Things looked in place, and so I think getting whooped like they did, I feel like is going to help them transition into the rest of the year, and they're going to maybe calm down, and not think of themselves as the best thing since sliced bread. Maybe they'll just realize, okay, we need to take a step back, do what we do best, not try to go out and just kill people, and I think it will help them later on in the year.
I completely agree. I'd be scared if I was Utah State this week, they play at home, Coliseum, 93,000 people. But just getting back to the game, I didn't see the game live. I watched the highlights. I saw the very beginning. I saw when they were crawling out of the tunnel. And one of the quotes during the game, and I feel like people are going to come back to this when they talk about this game. They said, I forget, it may have been Kirk Herbstreit on the call, or I think it was Chris Fowler as well. One of them said during the broadcast that USC had been planning the whole summer to beat Alabama, and then they lost by 46. Again, I didn't see the game. I saw some of the highlights, so I didn't get the gist of how the mojo went during the game. But from what I heard, it was just dominance from Alabama's defense, as we saw dominance from the rushing perspective of it, and they lost both their running backs to the NFL. But Alabama, and we talked about this on the last podcast, they just get recruits. They get the top recruits in the nation no matter what every single year. And at every position, they probably have a 5-star, 4-star guy. So no matter what, they're going to have talent. But for USC to get killed, that's my problem with them. If they would have lost, let's say, 35-28, 35-21 even, or something like that, you're okay with it because you're like, well, Alabama was better anyways. But now you don't even know what USC team you're going to get every week. Are you going to get this team that looked a lot like last year's team, maybe a 7-5 team? Or are you going to get what they were supposed to be? They were ranked number 20 coming into the season. They were ranked number 20 going into that game. And they did not look like that. And they're not even in the if the new AP poll came out, they didn't get any votes to be ranked this week.
None.
So maybe a little bit of an overreaction. I don't think so. But But again, USC that just can't happen. And it should be interesting to see what they do against Utah State.
Just ugly, man. Like you said,
definitely.
they spent all summer thinking about this game, and to come out like that is just bad. So we will talk a little more about USC later on,
a little bit later.
And kind of the implications that have come ever since this loss.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, good luck Utah State, because I feel that USC will come out and just want to dominate and show that even though it was Alabama, they can play better than that.
Definitely. Poor Aggies this week. Poor Aggies. But moving on to another game of ranked opponents and highly ranked opponents. Number 3 Oklahoma took on the Houston Cougars, who were ranked number 15 going into the game. It was at NRG Stadium where the Houston Texans play, so it was supposed to be a neutral site in Houston where Houston plays. It really wasn't. But I don't really think that mattered at all to Houston. They just showed they were the better team. Houston won the game 33-23. The most memorable play of the game was a 109-yard field goal return. It looked a lot like that Auburn-Alabama play. I'm forgetting the guy that returned the kick, but I think all of you remember, if you're college football fans, what happened a couple of years ago. That's what it looked like. They ended up winning by 10, so that was one of the big factors in the game. And it just looked like Houston was the better team. But unlike what happened with USC, I don't think Oklahoma's still a bad team. I think they just lost. I think Houston's better than I thought for sure. I thought they'd lose to Oklahoma. I thought Oklahoma would win. They didn't. So, Jared, I'll let you take over for...
Yeah, I feel that Houston is a team on the rise. In the last 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, they have actually upset opponents ranked in the top 10. So their coaching staff has this team believing that even though they may not be able to get the best recruits or the 5-star recruits, that they can still come out and play with the big boys. And that's exactly what they did on Saturday against Oklahoma. You mentioning it, a neutral site. I really don't think it mattered if they played in Oklahoma or in Houston or wherever in the backyard. Houston's team came out to play. The time of possession, Houston had the ball for 35 minutes compared to Oklahoma's only 24. You said the biggest play of the game was that 100-yard or 109-yard missed field goal return for a touchdown. I just feel Houston, apparently people love Houston now. They jumped up to number 6, I believe.
Yeah, number 6.
Number 6, and they were number 15. So a lot of love going Houston's way. Their schedule for the rest of the year isn't necessarily that tough because of the conference that they're in compared to other schools. So I feel that as long as Houston doesn't have any hiccups, they will be able to stay in the top 10 at least. And I think it's still a stretch, but they will be making their case for the college football playoff.
Definitely. I think that one team they do play later this season that's pretty good is Louisville, who's ranked 13. They look real good. Remember this? They scored 70 points, and their quarterback had 8 touchdowns. That quarterback reminds me actually of Houston's quarterback, Greg Ward Jr., who had a good game as well. But like you said, these teams that aren't in the Power 5 conferences, they're going to have to go undefeated to get into the thing, to get into the playoff. Unless they schedule teams like Oklahoma, which is smart. Houston did that. It's going to be tough. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Houston again. But pretty much you got to hope they win if you're a Houston Cougars fan, or it's going to be tough for them to get in the playoffs. But still, always nice to say you beat Oklahoma during the season, whatever happens during the rest of the season.
Hey,
I'll let you go.
Oh no, I was going to say same state. If you can beat a team in your state, especially the Oklahoma and the history that they have, if you can beat them, that's saying something.
Definitely no. And then so moving on to another upset, probably the biggest upset of the week. The LSU Tigers, the mighty Tigers, going down at Lambeau Field to Wisconsin. A game that was very low scoring. Final score was 16-14. LSU looked very bad on offense, and that's including everybody. That's including Leonard Fournette. Did not look as explosive. Brandon Harris looked horrible. Jared and I wondered on the last podcast why they don't have a quarterback, and they still have no quarterback. I would not trust Brandon Harris against another good team. LSU, I wouldn't say their season's over, but if they want any chance at the playoff or a big bowl, they're going to have to really run the table now. You expected them to just beat Wisconsin, even though it was at Lambeau Field. You expected them to win that game, and they didn't, and they looked really bad. And I'll be the first one to say it if nobody else has said it. I think Les Miles is on the hot seat now as well. I think he was on the hot seat last year. I remember talk about him potentially being fired last year, but I think now you got to look at it legit and just say, what is he doing what does he need to do to get better? And if he's not getting better, what do you do with him? I'll let you kind of give your opinion on that.
Yeah, I feel that Les Miles, he's safe. Unlike last year where there's a lot of rumors that midway through the season he was going to be fired or let go because of the team's record and the fact that he's been with them for so long and just hasn't been able to beat the Alabamas or make it to a national championship. But going back to this game this past Saturday, I believe it was a big upset. I think Wisconsin is a good team, but I feel that LSU has way more talent, and
Definitely.
they should have won by at least 10, in my opinion. They didn't play well. Lennis Fournette had a good game. I wouldn't call it a great game.
Yeah.
I feel like Wisconsin's defense and their game plan pretty much played out, and they were able to control Fournette. And like you said, when you don't have a quarterback and you know that you have one of the best running backs in the league, you're going to put 8-9 guys in the box, and you're going to force them to throw the ball. And that's pretty much what Wisconsin did, and LSU wasn't able to respond. Defensively, it was LSU played well, and they kept their team in the game. But in the end, your offense has to do something. You have to be able to score some points. You can't just put up a goose egg and then, in the fourth quarter, expect to score a touchdown or two and think you're going to be back in this game. So I actually feel bad for LSU's new defensive coordinator, Dave Aranda, coming from Wisconsin, where he pretty much made a name for himself, wanting to come and prove that, hey, guys, you guys were my former team, but I'm here to kick your butt. And obviously that didn't happen. So I feel LSU is going to be okay. If you are to lose a game in college football, in my opinion, I think it's okay to lose a game early in the season. I think you can come back from that. And if they can go on a roll, especially in the SEC, where they're playing teams such as Auburn and Alabama and Ole Miss and the tough schedule that they have, if they can go on a roll and, win out the rest of their games, I really don't think people are going to remember this game that much.
Yeah.
But if they have a few more hiccups and they continue to lose, they lose one more game, you can kiss the college football playoffs goodbye.
Yeah, and I think they'll have an easy matchup this week against Jacksonville State. It's a Division II team, so they should win and beat the crap out of them, but they might not. You hope they do. I see it again like that USC situation where you're playing against a really bad team after you lost. And so they should do better. They will be without their offensive lineman, Josh Bodle, who got suspended for clotheslining a player after a play. I don't have the Wisconsin's player's name with me right now, but the player that intercepted the ball to seemingly end the game for Wisconsin when it was 16-14, Brandon Harris rolled out and threw a pass to nobody. I don't know where he was throwing. He threw it right to a Wisconsin defender. The guy got up and celebrated, kind of ran toward his sideline with the ball, and Bodle clotheslined him. It looked like a professional wrestling move. How hard he did it. It was irresponsible. It was terrible. It's just bad sportsmanship, and you don't like to see that stuff. But I want to get your opinion, Jared, on the fact that they suspended him for one game against Division II Jacksonville State. Do you think there should have been a bigger punishment for especially what he did and the backlash he got after it too?
He should be suspended for at least 4 to 5 games, in my opinion. It's just idiotic. It's unsportsmanlike. There's no place in the game for it at all whatsoever. I don't care if you're winning by 50 or if you're losing by 50 or when you're in the situation that LSU was in this past Saturday. You have to show respect for other players. It was completely after the whistle. And to me, to suspend a guy one game against Jacksonville State, what is that going to do? Suspend him for
Nothing.
a game against Auburn or someone where maybe, an opponent where it actually means something. Jacksonville State, you can roll out your third-string team and hopefully beat Jacksonville State. So in my opinion, this is a fail by the coaching staff, also by the player, but the coaching staff could have made a statement and made a stand to their players and to the university saying, we're not going to tolerate this. If you do act like this, this is what's going to happen. So pretty much, to me, what this is saying is these players can get away with this type of act and only get suspended for one game. That's kind of like a slap on the wrist. Oh, hey, guys, don't worry. We're going to punish you for one game, make it look like we're actually doing something, but then we're going to get you right back out there.
Well, yeah, and LSU's next two opponents, besides Jacksonville State after week 2, are Mississippi State and Missouri. You wouldn't say that's top class in the SEC, especially since Mississippi State just lost to an opponent they shouldn't have lost to either. But you still, if you suspend him, then they play Florida a little bit later. That would really prove a point to any player on that team that says, if you do something that's stupid during a game and you show that much non-class during a game, you're gonna miss a ton of games. It's gonna affect your draft stock. It's gonna affect. I don't know what class this guy's in. I don't know if he could be a freshman, sophomore. I'm not sure 100%, but it could affect a lot. I mean, they kicked off Tyrann Mathieu a long while ago for infractions with marijuana. And then they suspend this guy one game for the cheapest hit I've seen in a football game in the last 10 years. So, again, it's a bad look for LSU. It should have definitely been suspended at least like 2. And it just, again, you wouldn't even start him against Jacksonville State anyways, probably, and now he's not playing. And then let's move on a little bit to a little better of a topic. Another SEC team with a big upset over the weekend. Texas A&M defeated UCLA 31-24 in overtime, and it was a interesting, pretty good game. There was a lot of turnovers. Texas A&M was up by 2 touchdowns for a while, and then UCLA made this great comeback. Texas A&M. I say Mississippi State because their jerseys look exactly like Mississippi State. Go out, look at Texas A&M's jerseys. I swear they look exactly like Mississippi State. So that's why I keep saying them. So forgive me if I say it again. But so Texas A&M, they were up by 2 touchdowns. UCLA came back. UCLA actually had a chance with about a minute to go to go down the field and win the game. And Rosen threw an interception that didn't make a lot of sense. And then Texas A&M came down. They couldn't score either. They win to overtime, and A&M had finally pulled out. Very interesting game. But a better look for the SEC when some of these other teams were losing and stuff, too.
Yeah, I just want to first point out that I did call this game, by the way, before.
He did. I did call that UCLA would be in the Final Four or have a chance to be in the Final Four. That's probably not going to happen now, but Jared, I'll let you continue.
Yeah, no, I just want to get credit for that. Thank you very much. Going back to this game, I just had a feeling that at home, against UCLA, the home opener with all of the issues that Texas A&M has had in the past with players and losing recruits and all of the scandals that have gone on with this team, I feel like they wanted to come out. Coach Kevin Sumlin wanted to come out and kind of make a statement against a UCLA team who is supposedly supposed to be very, very good. Now, I still think UCLA is good, but I feel that Texas A&M has taken a major leap, especially on defense. The last 2 years, Texas A&M hasn't been able to stop anyone. They couldn't even stop a JUCO team, in my opinion. So I feel like they have one of the best defenders in, I believe his name is Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett,
yes.
Yeah.
A lot of people are comparing him to Von Miller, and he's supposed to be the next thing coming for them. Like you said, the turnovers were a big factor in this game. 3 interceptions by Josh Rosen, and I feel like that was the biggest part of this game, especially on the road. You can't turn the ball over. And when you do that, you're not going to have a good chance to win. The last interception, which was down near the goal line, that almost gave them a chance to score, that was pretty much just a scramble, throw it up and see what happens. But the other 2 put UCLA in very, very bad positions. So I give a lot of credit to Texas A&M, especially being in the SEC. This is a big win for them and a big confidence booster. And I think they're going to take this into the rest of the season and potentially surprise some people.
Yeah, and I don't want to put the blame fully on Josh Rosen because there was 2 or 3 wide open passes that were dropped and I think 2 of them were wide open touchdowns too. It could have definitely been a different game. Rosen put the blame on himself after his first media appearance after the game. He said it was my fault. I don't have 100% the quote here down, but he said something along the lines of, "This will be my worst performance of the season." So still confident. He was definitely confident in that game when they were had the ball 1 minute to go. The play before he threw the interception, he actually wanted the crowd to get louder, and he had kind of talked crap on the crowd before the game too. So it kind of backfired on Josh. Still a young guy. I'll take some flack off of him too. But I also think this game actually it saved face a little bit for UCLA and Texas A&M because the game was good, but I don't think this showed that UCLA was worse than Texas A&M. I don't think it showed that Texas A&M was better. And that's why I was a little mad when UCLA got bumped completely from the rankings because UCLA looked better than LSU. And I know they don't have the talent, but you can't unrank a team because they lost in overtime and had a couple turnovers. So I'll probably rant about the ranking a little later, but I do think both teams saved face. Obviously, Texas A&M won, so they obviously saved face. But I think UCLA, not as bad as people are thinking after this loss, and I think specifically in LA, USC saved them this weekend because that would have been the worst loss in LA until USC did what they did. The last game we'll talk about as far as upsets go, Notre Dame and Texas. Sunday night football. I thought this was the best game of the weekend.
By far.
Yeah, definitely. And Texas pulling out the win against number 10 Notre Dame. Texas looked really good, and they had a interesting way of playing. I believe at one point they played 3 different quarterbacks during the game.
Yes, 2 for sure.
And they had a true freshman quarterback playing as well.
Who started.
Yeah, who started. And they also had Tyrone Swoops, who they nicknamed the 18-wheeler. I absolutely love that nickname. And Swoops, I almost would say, was the MVP of that game. They get down to the goal line, and I think every single time they scored with Swoops in the game. He would just take the ball and run people over. He made some of the Notre Dame's defenders look ridiculous. It was a great game, though. Again, Notre Dame played a great game. The game went into, I believe, double overtime. Was it double?
Double overtime.
It went to double overtime, so it went 6 quarters in a way. So you can't totally say that Notre Dame is a bad team for losing the game. But Texas, I don't want to say they're back, but they sure look good.
Yes. I was a big fan of Charlie Strong and this team coming into this season. It's taken him a few years to get his message across to this team and kind of bring back the top recruits that Texas is known for. And I had a weird feeling. I actually didn't think they would be able to upset Notre Dame because I do feel that Notre Dame has a very, very good team under Coach Kelly this year. But being at home, that first game, almost anything can happen. You can't really game plan for a team at the beginning of the year, especially in college football, because there's so much turnover from guys leaving and going to the pros, or guys just graduating, and freshmen coming in and playing. So it's very tough to game plan specific players. You can game schemes, but that's about it. Both these teams like to go up tempo and very high-powered passing offenses. So I actually wasn't really expecting it to be as high of a score as it was. Texas just showed a lot of heart. They had 517 total yards of offense. Notre Dame had 444. So obviously it was offense. The defenses weren't really doing a whole lot. As you mentioned, Swoops, I believe he had 3 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, something ridiculous like that.
Just unreal. He kind of came in and almost saved the day in a sense. If you think about it, really, without him, they wouldn't have won this game. Not with the true freshman quarterback that ended up starting. So I think it's a step in the right direction for Texas. I don't know if Texas is really going to be able to capitalize this and put this in, bring them into the rankings as far as the top 25. But I do feel that Coach Strong is getting his message across, and if not this year, next year, I see Texas being true contenders again.
Definitely, and Notre Dame looked good in this game. They kind of chose Kaiser to be the quarterback later in the game. They were playing Malik Zaire and Kaiser pretty much every different possession, and they both were playing good. They decided on Deshaun Kaiser to be the player for the quarterback for the rest of the game, and he did a fantastic job. Again, Notre Dame, they lost the game, but they still are a really good team. I know they got bumped down to number 18 in the rankings, but they're still a good team. But Texas, big win for them in front of the largest crowd ever at DKR Stadium. It was a fantastic atmosphere. Best game of week 1 for sure. A crazy week 1. Maybe even game of the year if something else happens. There probably will be a better game, but a very good game, very good weekend for college football. And I cannot wait for week 2.
Yeah, let's get to it.
Listen, this is going to be really quick. I'm not taking any questions. We sucked from head to toe, and we need to move by it. So I'm not going to dissect it with you guys. I know you have to do your job, but I'm not answering any questions. Okay, so that should finish.
I want to walk. I'll walk. If cell phones go off, I'll walk.
That's a pretty dumb question to ask me, Riggs.
Shut your yap.
I don't want to tell you. No info. No info, Zip. Oh, I was thrilled that we had 10 shots.
Did you give thought during the game to bumping him back up to
Stop coaching, Pat. I don't know what you're talking about.
That was the always lovable John Tortorella, NHL coach. He's the coach of Team USA. Those are just a couple of his funny quotes with the media. But it's time for me and Jared's favorite game, Do You Care? And my first question to you, Jared, is do you care that John Tortorella said this week that he would not play anybody that sat during the national anthem a la Colin Kaepernick?
Yes, I do care. He is a coach that is known for saying what is on his mind and not having a filter at all, cursing in front of the media or pretty much saying whatever needs to be said to get his point across. His son, Nick, is a member of the Army Rangers, so I understand where he's coming from as far as standing for the national anthem and showing respect. The NHL Deputy Commissioner, Bill Daly, is quoted as saying, "We're not going to play anthems after every game. We're only going to play anthems when something is won from a tournament perspective." So really, this might not even have to be an issue at all, depending on how far the USA goes. And Nick, do you care? Former wrestler Sam Punk is debuting for UFC this weekend.
Half and half. I do care because I'm a pro wrestling fan and I like CM Punk. And I think it's very interesting that you kind of have a celebrity going in there who's never fought, fighting an actual fighter. The guy he's fighting, his name is Mickey Gall, who has a undefeated record in the UFC, 2-0. So it's not, you know. But still, to see a guy go in like that and to see what's going to happen, the only reason I say half and half is because I can't see the fight. I'm not going to see the fight. So I don't care that much, but I care enough to be interested. Jared, do you care that USC wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster apparently fought a teammate and sat out of practice for 10 minutes due to frustration on Tuesday?
Not at all. Not at all. This is football. It's a violent sport. It's a physical game. Even in practice, you're supposed to practice how you play. I think it was a situation where he was running a route. The defender batted the ball away or something along those circumstances, and he got upset. And I feel that he is still steaming from the major loss to Alabama this week, and he's just not over it yet. Like we mentioned earlier in the beginning, the team came out of the tunnel crawling, and they're all excited and hyped up and juiced, and then they got whooped. So I feel like he is just trying to maybe light a fire under his team. Maybe it wasn't the best way to do it, but in my opinion, this isn't a big deal. And like I said before, good luck, Utah State. Nick, do you care that RG3 was named captain for the Browns?
I don't care because I don't really care about the Browns. I already said that I didn't think the Browns would do very well. Good for him that he's captain, but there's not really too many other players that you could name a captain, so I almost think it was by default that he was named the captain of the Browns. Jared, do you care that Tiger Woods says he wants to play in the Safeway Open, which is played in California, in October this year?
I do care. I still feel that Tiger Woods has a place in this game, and even though he's no longer ranked as one of the top golfers in the world, his presence will not only bring fans and viewers, but just he's the Michael Jordan of golf in a sense. And so anytime you see Tiger Woods out there playing, or even just on the sidelines on the grass just watching, I think it's good for the sport. He hasn't played in a competitive round of golf since August 2015, having 2 back surgeries in that time span. So it's not I'm not going to bet on it saying that he is going to come back or even return to half of the Tiger Woods that we know and used to love. But I think it would be nice to see him return and at least try to give it another go. Nick, do you care the Dodgers are putting their final 6 games of the season on television in the LA area?
I do. I care a lot because that's not the whole reason they're doing it. They're doing it. This is Vince Scully's last season, legendary announcer. A lot of people say, I agree that he's the best play-by-play man, the best announcer of all time. He's retiring after 67 years announcing the Dodgers. He announced Jackie Robinson. He announced Kirk Gibson's home run. He also announced Hank Aaron's 715th home run when he broke the record as well. So Vince Scully's been around a long time, but this just means that we'll be able to hear his last week of broadcasting, and we'll be able to hear his final game as well. So I care a lot. Jared, do you care that the Atlanta Braves are interested in signing Tim Tebow?
I do not care. If I'm the Braves, yes, I do care, and I make this move in a heartbeat. Obviously, Tim Tebow played his football and made a name for himself at Florida. Atlanta has Georgia and Georgia Tech, so that's at least Georgia's SEC country. So from a marketing standpoint, I think it would be very wise to bring Tim Tebow in. Even if you're just bringing him in for a minor league contract, you're probably going to bring in viewers, and they're never going to come out and say that's why. But I think we all know why. The Braves GM, John Copella, says there's no risk in signing Tim Tebow to a minor league contract. And an interesting note, the Braves vice chairman also coached some interesting two-sport athletes, Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders, and Brian Jordan. So coincidence? Who knows? We'll see. Nick, do you care that Undisputed, a new television debate show, has debuted with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe?
I do, because I'm a guy that likes to hear those talk shows, and it's very interesting to finally see Skip Bayless with Fox. If you watch the show at all, it is literally a mirror image of First Take on ESPN, which is Skip's former show. So it's pretty much the same exact thing as First Take, but still, for all you people that like to wake up early, it's at 9:30 in the morning on the East Coast, 6:30 in the morning on the West Coast. So you wake up early, you hear Shannon Sharpe and Skip Bayless talk about sports for a long time. Jared, do you care that Colin Kaepernick's jersey sales have gone through the roof since his national anthem incident?
I do care, and I'll give you my opinion after this.
It's the rare occasion when sports and politics collide, and an NFL quarterback has certainly ignited a firestorm. We're talking about Colin Kaepernick. He's the San Francisco 49ers quarterback, and he's been refusing to stand for the national anthem before all 3 preseason games in protest.
When I found out about Colin Kaepernick's jersey sales skyrocketing, I was completely shocked. I did not feel that this controversy would lead to this. From the 49ers team website, it's reporting that they have sold more Kaepernick jerseys in the past week than they have in the last 8 months. That to me is absolutely amazing.
Wow.
What Kaepernick is now doing, which I believe is a positive, is he is turning this into a situation where he will donate 100% of the sales to charities and communities that need it the most. And last Thursday, he began to promote and show that he can do something more than just sit for the national anthem when he said that he will donate the first $1 million that he makes from his NFL contract this year to organizations dedicated to fighting the problems that he cares about.
And I think he kind of has to do that, because if he was just sitting down for the national anthem and being a guy that gets paid to sit on the bench, essentially, because he's not playing, he's not starting, I think he was, I don't want to say forced, but he almost had to do something like that. It's good. It's a very good idea. It's a smart play by Kaepernick to give the money, because that's what you should do. You should be giving the money to charities that will be involved in the African American community. And I just think it's a good idea. But just talking generally about the Colin Kaepernick incident, I believe personally it's his right. He can do whatever he wants. I just thought that when he initially did, it was a little bit for attention. It's not the right thing to say necessarily, but I thought, his career was definitely on the down. He's gone from a Super Bowl quarterback to a backup. He went from a backup, and now he's back up again, and he was nearly cut. And I think the only reason they kept him is because they feel like there's a slim hope that he'll do well under Chip Kelly. But I thought initially when he did this, it was for a little bit of attention, because he didn't need to do it, and he's made kind of a media spectacle out of it for sure.
Yeah, I feel that when he first, in his mind, decided that he wanted to do this, he knew that he was going to get some backlash from this, but I don't think that he even thought it was going to blow up into what it is now. turning into situations to where people are saying that he hates veterans and he has no respect for veterans and all of that. So I feel it's kind of turned uglier than he might have pictured. So this is one way for him to solve that issue and say, hey, listen, this is what I'm really about. I'm not just about sitting on the sidelines for the national anthem. I can prove to you that I'm going to speak by my actions and not just by sitting down. I will say that his teammate, Eric Reed, who has been the starting safety for the 49ers for the last few seasons, he also sat with Kaepernick for the last game of the preseason. Now, he wasn't dressed in uniform. He was just in street clothes, but he still sat right next to Kaepernick, showing support for him. And one other player, Jeremy Lang, a cornerback for the Seattle Seahawks, he also sat during their fourth preseason game during the national anthem. And he has come out and is quoted as saying that for the time being, I don't know if it's for the entire rest of the season, but he said that he will not stand for the national anthem for the foreseeable future. So obviously it has gotten a lot of other athletes' attention, and I'm sure there will be more athletes that will either follow in their specific footsteps. Now, I'm not saying I necessarily agree with that because I don't. I feel that getting involved with organizations and donating money and donating your time is more valuable and shows that you care more than just sitting for the national anthem. But at least he's starting to get the attention of other athletes. So hopefully they can turn this into a positive situation.
Well, one other athlete that kneeled down during the national anthem was Megan Rapinoe of the U.S. women's soccer team for her National Women's Soccer League game, not one of the U.S. games. But the interesting thing about her is she's white. She's not African American, and she was doing it to show support. And apparently Kaepernick has gone on record of saying or have given them kind words for what they've done supporting him. And I'll tell you this, he sure has sparked the debate again. It is amazing how much it has gone right now as far as how far it's gotten. You look at every single news outlet was covering this story at one point. And this is where sports turns into news occasionally. This stuff happens. But again, it'll be interesting to see what happens during the regular season. Because once you get into the regular season, there's more national broadcast, and there will be, I don't even want to say this, but there will probably be more media attention if he does it on a Sunday Night Football or if he does it on September 11th, which is the first, not luckily for him, but his first game is on September 12th. You have to think that he might have thought differently if that first game lay on September 11th. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point that I did not even think about, and I think he would have had to think twice about, kneeling and not standing because of how big 9/11 is to this country and what it means. So I'm actually not sure whether he would have sat. Obviously, if he would have still sat, it would have just brought more controversy, and obviously all the cameras are going to be on him all the time anyway. I just feel that when you're protesting a subject like this, when you're talking about a racial issue, there's always going to be some sort of type of no one's really comfortable talking about this. No. And I feel that's another reason why this is also getting the attention that it is because no one wants to talk about this out in the spotlight. People will talk about this behind doors with their friends or family or people that they're comfortable with. But when you're just speaking with someone who you maybe don't know, or if you're in the media spotlight, it's very uncomfortable. And this nation as a whole still hasn't gotten over what happened years and years ago with civil rights, the movement, and everything that's gone on. So I feel that it is uncomfortable, but it's something that does need to be talked about and something that does need to be fixed, or at least there need to be solutions. And people, especially Kaepernick, because of the spotlight and the attention that he has, the platform that he is able to provide, these athletes and other people need to kind of step up and go out and prove with their actions, not just words, that they have that they want to be a part of this voice.
Yeah, and again, he kind of it kind of came out of the blue too, because the issues with the African American killings and the minority killings, nothing had really happened for a long time As far as national media coverage, there's probably been stuff that wasn't covered, which is horrible that the media does that sometimes, but it happens. But so he brought it out of the blue, and again, he's done a pretty good job of getting his kind of theory out there about the whole thing and bringing it up and keeping it up. And I commend him for it, because a lot of times when people are pushing issues, if it's not being talked about at that time, you'll see a lot of people don't talk about it. If you look at, I like to use like Facebook or social media as an example. Not a lot of people were talking about the whole minority killing issue or the police brutality issue for last month or two. Ever since Colin Kaepernick since he's been kneeling and sitting for the national anthem, it has sparked enormous amounts of responses from people that normally wouldn't say anything. So he's done a good job of keeping the conversation up. And like I said, we'll see if he keeps doing it for the rest of the regular season, if it keeps being covered. But again, very interesting question. I really would have wanted to know if he would have done it on September 11th and how the media, and especially how people would have reacted, because I don't think it would have been very good. But I think he's also had a lot of positive feedback, too. There's been a lot of, President Obama came out and said it's his right. He can do whatever he wants. There's been countless veterans that have come out and said, it's your right. It's fine what you're doing, and we totally understand it. There's always going to be the backlash of people saying bad things, but I think he's caused a conversation for both sides. It's not just a one-sided issue.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. It is your right. We do not force people to stand or to kneel or bow for anything.
Absolutely not.
That's why, to me, this country is the greatest country of them all, because you can make your own decisions and you can choose to stand or choose not to stand. Now, the backlash for this specific incident is going to be greater than most others, but he is exercising his right, and I cannot necessarily sit here and argue with that. Now, if I were him, would I specifically kneel down and not stand for the national anthem? No, I would stand, and I would choose to get my message across in a different way. This is how he chose to do it. Now he needs to stick with what he's doing, handle it like a man, and step up and, donate money, get involved with organizations, and move forward.
Well, it's funny because I do think people overreact to the whole national anthem thing, because I remember during the Olympics, Gabby Douglas kept not putting her hand over her heart in the national anthem. I mean, it's an Olympic tradition. You're supposed to do it. She would put her hands behind her back. I often put my hands behind my back during the national anthem just because I don't think about it. It's national anthem. I am just paying my respects to the flag. Sometimes I don't necessarily put my hand over my heart. Or sometimes I don't take my hat off by accident. I forget. It's not out of disrespect. Sometimes people forget. Obviously, what Kaepernick's doing is not forgetting. He's intentionally doing it. But I think overall, people overreact to it too. It's your right. You can do whatever you want. Like you said, this is what makes the country great. And again, I love that it's created the conversation and that it's gone as far as it can. But I think people need to stop overreacting so much too.
Yeah, true, very true.
So that will be the end of the podcast today. Hopefully there's better there's as good as college football was for week 2 as there was week 1. As far as the next podcast goes, we'll probably talk about the NFL, the first week of the NFL season.
Oh yes, we will.
We'll come up. Hopefully someone does something interesting, so we have another big topic to talk about, like Colin Kaepernick too. We'll probably have a fun game to play as well. But as far as this podcast goes, this one is over. For Nick,
I'm Jared.
This has been the Nick and Jared Podcast.